We're here.
Hello.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, all. Welcome. It's Wednesday night, Generational Change. I'm Jen.
I'm Peter, and my hair is...
Every episode starts with your hair, and also I feel like we're...
A vegan atheist who hates Jimmy Dore. What is that all about, Matt?
Okay.
Interesting request. But yes...
Do we have who is that? Who's the vegan atheist that hates Jimmy? I mean, there's probably more than one. I mean, I can't imagine that there's only one vegan atheist.
I would think Vosh would be that vegan atheist.
I don't know that Vosh is a vegan.
Think he's vegan.
I don't know about that, but that's okay.
Hey, guys.
Hi, all.
I get some vegan. Oh, get someone vegan on the pod. Well,
we go back to one of our. We did. We actually had somebody from a group called South Florida Vegans that came on and talked a lot about that. Sean Russell. And he was on. That was a while ago, but yeah, we could get into that again. I mean, I don't know why you.
I'm mostly vegan.
We're vegan-ish. So. I know.
Yeah, vegan-ish.
We're vegan-ish. I won't wear animals, and I only eat wild caught animals. I won't eat farmed animals. So I feel like that's.
Would you like a pat on the back?
I would. And I don't support animal agriculture. If that helps. So for the most part, I'm pescatarian, but I do have a weakness for cheese. It's definitely a cognitive disconnect, and I'm not happy about it. Like, I often wish I didn't like cheese, or if cheese would just disappear, then it wasn't even an option. Then I'd be like, all right, well, that kind of
sucks. Yeah, but
sucks.
if you're not able to eat pizza, wouldn't that kind of make you feel depressed and not able to really?
Per Oro, we don't qualify guests as asking them if they're vegan. Like, that's just not one of our requirements for guests, is to find out whether they're vegan. I mean, it's nice if they are, but of course, I can't work with that.
It can't be like one of those featured requirements.
No, we can't have that be the requirement of the show. So, I did create a last minute story time.
Oh, really?
I did. I created a last minute story time. It's more of a montage, if you will, of some stuff that I think is important. But do you want to wait until afterwards to do that?
Yes, we will wait until afterwards, because we have a very special guest that is coming on right now. One of the things that we've talked about, and one of the things that's very important regarding the progressive movement, the non-corporate political movement.
Yeah, we need to stop saying progressive.
Yes.
It's been co-opted.
Yes, correct. And I'm sure Cynthia will be more than happy to share that sentiment, being in Rhode Island.
Oh, yeah. Rhode Island, that's one of the states that I said that if I were ever to run a statewide race, it would be like in Rhode Island. Maybe Delaware. Never Florida.
New Hampshire.
Well, yeah. I mean, I have to say, like, if one is running a statewide race, Rhode Island is definitely one of the easier states to cover geographically. So that wouldn't be, I would bet our district is probably almost the size of Rhode Island.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, not that the position mattered in terms of that it's no easier to control Rhode Island than to control Florida, but it's definitely easier to campaign across Rhode Island than Florida, I would say.
I would say that that's true. There's a lot of great places to see, especially along the shoreline. Cranston, there's a lot of good things to talk about. But of course,
there's a Johnny Cake thing.
Johnny Cakes.
I don't know what it is, but I have to try it at some point. I'm all about food wherever there's food. There's a Johnny Cake thing.
Yeah, that's.
Do you know what that is? I don't know. We're going to find out, but it's a thing. Well, no, there's a thing about Rhode Island and Johnny Cakes. I'm just saying. And Mo's son lives there.
Okay, so then that's all the more reason. But of course, one of the lessons, the most important lessons that we learned when Bernie ran for president, is that the establishment will coalesce in order to squash any type of a non-corporate movement. So if you're going to run for office, it certainly wouldn't hurt if non-corporate candidates start running on their own coalesced slates.
It's a PAC.
It's a PAC.
Not a PAC PAC, a PACK PAC.
Not a wolf pack.
Not a wolf pack, but kind of like, but it makes sense. It makes sense. Like, everything where people kind of unite and come together makes us like stronger and more capable. So I like that idea.
She's candidate for lieutenant governor in the great state of Rhode Island. And I'm sure we'll learn a lot about the Oz that do not exist when they talk. So that's the fun part about being from Rhode Island. Cynthia Mendes, welcome to Generational Change.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Hey.
Absolutely. We're thrilled to have you.
It's interesting because I would say, when was that interview with Fire Breathing Rob? Because I don't think I would. Okay, so within 1 week, we are speaking to 2 Rhode Islanders. That's okay. I'm just saying. We
Don't count
we don't
us
have
out.
that very.
Don't count us out.
Are you from there? Are you from that area?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Massachusetts, which is like 20 minutes away.
Right.
And I've been in Rhode Island my whole adult life, so over 20 years, yeah.
And what's going on there? Like what is happening in Rhode? Like, it's definitely a state we don't talk about. Like, we talk New York, California, Texas. Like, we talk politics in other places. I don't think anybody has any idea, like, politically, what is Rhode Island like politically, and like the big issues, like what's going on there that really has pushed you to where you need to do something about it.
Oh yeah, there's so much to know about Rhode Island. Rhode Island politics, just a little bit of background, is known for being tremendously conservative and regressive. We have an entrenched old boys club that have been kind of running the show for a really long time. We have corruption. Like, the people in Rhode Island have become so accustomed to the fact that every year someone's getting carted off to federal prison for some sort of scandal. And it's absolutely wild. And so corruption has become synonymous with politics in Rhode Island for a really, really long time. And then you have legalized corruption, which is taking money from corporate PACs and corporate lobbyists and the way that they kind of hoard power. And so Rhode Island is a very it's a one-party state, and it is not as blue as people think it is. You know, we have a leader of the Senate president. I'm in the Senate right now. Who has an A+ rating from the NRA, who is anti-choice, who has check all the boxes, has been conservative all along the line, all the way down, and consistently run as Democrats, although nothing about their platform, if they could even conjure one, is left or Democratic. So that is the background of kind of the party that is here. And so I think Rhode Island is actually exciting for people to kind of watch and check and monitor, because right now we're noticing that we have to start focusing on the states. We need to start building a bench on the states. The right has been doing it for a really long time, and they've been building power. And we've been focusing on the executive branch only, and not and DC, and we've not been focusing on the states the way that we need to. And Rhode Island is the smallest state, so we actually have the potential to flip an entire state legislature, which by the way is our plan, to flip the entire state legislature. So this is not about just my race. I'm happy to dive into that, and win governing left majority for progressives. And again, that word is really not bought, unbossed, however you want to call it. But yeah, we have the ability to do that. And it's a model that can be replicated across the country. And we need to start doing it fast, because the right has been doing it for 50 years. And we have about 10, less than that, to get this right.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time, that the Republicans have definitely seized that working from the ground up strategy, and have really done a much better job in terms of building a judicial bench, dealing with their political party infrastructure, and really gaining momentum that the left we just can't get out of our own way in a lot of cases. Yep. So talk about this slate that you're on, and how that came together, and who's running, and what are your chances there in Rhode Island?
Yeah, so this actually started in 2020. We launched in 2019. The Rhode Island Political Cooperative launched a slate of candidates, about 23 candidates, working class folks, teachers, nurses, waitresses, activists, running on a shared platform of Green New Deal, Medicare for all, racial justice, environmental justice, all the things that we need, housing. And we ran together, and we won 10 seats in the General Assembly. So we've never seen a landscape change that quickly, and the demographic of the General Assembly. And immediately after our wins in 2020, we watched the very conservative, entrenched leadership cave on things that we had been asking for years. $15 minimum wage. All of a sudden they were interested in doing that. All of a sudden they were interested in climate justice. All of a sudden they were interested in legalizing marijuana. So all of the things that we had been begging and pleading for, they decided to move on to. But to be clear, it was the bottom of the barrel. It was the least they could do to maintain their power. A little bit more about the slate and kind of what happened in 2020 and now what we're doing in 2022, because it's really important. We didn't just run candidates, but we intentionally ran with the explicit mission to out leadership and change leadership. So I had never run for office before. I was a single mom that worked in healthcare, had a second job, and then was working in the unhoused community, working in soup kitchens, working with domestic violence survivors. Never saw myself in politics. The co-op gave me everything I needed, from a campaign plan to a campaign manager, and then community. We were able to fight together. We were able to volunteer, help each other get signatures. We were able to work together. And then when we got in office, to fight together. I took on the Senate Finance Chair, who was slated to be the next Senate president. He was one of the most powerful men in the state, outspent us 4-1. And we beat him 62-38. Wow. And that was just one of 10 wins. And so there is something to this collaborated effort of running together and winning together and then governing together, because then you hold each other accountable, right? There's no caving, there's no waffling. You know what you came in to do, and you're going to do it.
Yeah, that's sort of, I think, what we had envisioned the Justice Democrats were supposed to be like. Like, I think that's what a lot of us had in our minds, was what we were wanting that to be. And we just didn't quite get that. And I'm wanting to know how we can duplicate that. I mean, Florida, it might not ever be something that can work here, but in other places, some way that we can consolidate power. I mean, how do we do that here?
Well, you need a good slate of candidates that are running, but also the importance of recognizing the lower seats, especially nonpartisan seats. A lot of people are completely disenchanted with the Democratic Party, rightfully so. A lot of people are probably not aware, but there was a lot of chicanery that was going on in Rhode Island, among other New England states, when Bernie ran against Hillary and against the field in 2020. And so being able to fight against that really starts at the local level. And so anybody who has this theories of grandeur that they're going to start a third party and build this whole other movement, you don't actually have to do that. What you have to do is run for the nonpartisan seats, whether it's school board, city council, county commission. It's all there. And you don't need to be part of the Democratic Party in order to do that. And for those who are willing to be in the Democratic Party, what you are doing is exactly what people should be doing. If you have a good group of people who are willing to run for office, it's like, I've got your back, you've got my back. You're going to cover this territory, I'll cover that territory. At the end of the day, we are not taking corporate special interest money, and that is the unifying issue. It almost doesn't matter what your political stripes are. How do you see it?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And one of the things about running everyday working class people is that it inspires other people who didn't see themselves, as a part of this political process, and they're inspired to run for school committee and city council and town council and start to get involved. And that is really important to build that left bench and that power. It's tremendously important. Yeah, and to your point about the platform, the not taking corporate PAC money, but we all agreed on the platform, which was the floor, not the ceiling. So if someone was in a district where they wanted to go even further and go louder, then that's great. But we had a common agreement about what we were fighting for.
And I hear what you're saying, and it almost makes me feel like a good way about that. Like I've talked about this idea of the revolving door. We talk about it regarding like corporatists, lobbyists, and congresspeople, but I'm talking about the revolving door between activists and representatives, and the idea of recruiting people that are actually on the ground organizers in areas like housing justice. Absolutely. To be the people that run. And because a lot of those people, like you, never thought that was something, like, it wouldn't have necessarily occurred to someone, even though they might be very good at it. And I think that's something that people don't do. We don't actively recruit. And if we were to actively recruit, who would be heading that up? Like, I mean, I think about that all the time. Like, I desperately need somebody to run for state Senate in Indian River County. And so, but obviously, I mean, in Rhode Island, you can obviously reach a lot more people easily than we can. But like, how do you go about having some sort of organized structure that is really bringing in the right people to do that, to run for those positions?
Yeah, it is. It's interesting because when I was tapped on the shoulder to run, I was, like I said, single mom working 2 jobs. I was actively working in the soup kitchen when my friend had founded this organization that was feeding hundreds of folks. And he was connected to Matt Brown. They knew each other from 30 years ago in doing community work. Matt Brown is a former Secretary of State. He's now, ironically, my running mate. He's running for governor and I'm running for lieutenant governor. So interesting story there. And he was out there looking for who is doing the work, to your point, who is doing the service work, who is on the ground, have their hands full with the people that everybody else forgot about. We want those people. And no one's actively seeking them out. But then once I got in, I'm looking around at who else I can call, right? And so I call my friend who I know is a dance teacher, and she works with underserved communities, and I tap her, and she runs, and she wins. And so now we're in together. And so there's this lens of like, we won't let any opportunity go to waste. We're going to, once you are running, those people that dare to run should be out here actively calling in. And calling in other people. Those are the best recruiters. Those are the best people to encourage, because once you say, oh, if I can do it, you can do it. And the party is not out giving permission slips for people to run. They're not asking people to run. They tap up someone on the shoulder to run, and then they have to do exactly as they are told by leadership. And that is all that they can do. And so if you decide to run and you've not been tapped on the shoulder by the political establishment, prior to the co-op, you didn't run, and if you dared to, you didn't win.
Yeah.
And so there is this model now of being able to share resources, share information, get the training that you need in order to run and win. And so, yeah, to answer your question, the people that are doing the work and that are out serving the community should be the ones in power. To your point about the activists, yeah, like, you know, the people that have been marching and holding signs and doing protests should be the ones and the ones helping those that are unhoused should be the ones in the seats of decision making. Let the corporate lobbyists go out and picket. Let the bankers march. Let the fossil fuel industry, strike, because we're done with the fact that they have all the power and we're left outside. Let's flip it. Let's get inside.
I agree. So what is the current, are you running, is it an open seat or is there an incumbent sitting there?
There is an incumbent. And so I am running on a joint ticket with Matt in Rhode Island, Matt Brown. In Rhode Island, there is no formal relationship between governor and lieutenant governor. So we're running together. This is very innovative. It's never happened here. The current lieutenant governor was appointed because our governor had moved on to DC and the lieutenant governor had moved up. And so although she is the incumbent, the state had not voted for her. So there is a little bit of an even playing field there. And one thing I did want to bring up to you about your point about the activists and how important that is. You don't lose that when you're in office. We actually put a huge protest together in the winter because Rhode Island was the only Democratic state that hadn't spent a cent of its ARPA money. And we were in the middle of a housing crisis in the middle of the winter. And we had unprecedented numbers of people outside. And I know those people because that's the work I did before. And so I was frustrated and angry and couldn't do anything to change that because the leadership wouldn't call us in for a special session. They wouldn't spend the money. And so organized a protest that made local and national news. I actually forced the leadership. We were slept outside in front of the State House for 16 days. Started with 6 of us. The police kind of accosted us at first, so it kind of blew up in the news. And then more people came and more people came, faith leaders, health workers, you name it. It just started growing. 16 nights out, we had several hundred people out with us. And finally, the administration opened up 400 new shelter beds, and several municipalities opened money for folks that were unhoused. But the benefit of having people in office that were activists and community workers is that you don't forget that, and those are tools that you use, and they're not prepared. They don't know how to navigate that. They don't know how to. They will literally do anything to fight. That scares them.
That's what we saw with Cori Bush too. That kind of spirit, and that's what we need to be seeing. And we're always seeing from where we're sitting this constant battle between people on the outside that are always criticizing electoral politics and saying you're wasting your time running as a Democrat, like all of that stuff. And instead of working with the people on the inside. They sit there and try to knock down the people on the inside. Yeah. And we've always been promoting this idea of working together. And obviously that's made much easier when the people on the inside were the same as the people on the outside. I mean, that is like, to me, that's the goal. Like, so I love this idea. I think it should be a revolving door of non-corporate people. I think that's what we need. Yeah. And we see it on the moneyed end. They have no trouble. Like, I look at Kirsten Sinema, she doesn't want to run again probably. And she's just going to go into some big lobbying job making, whatever. And that's what they're doing. And I think we need to be doing that. Like that same concept as well.
I agree 100%. And so now we're going back to win governing majority. So I'm running on a joint ticket with Matt Brown. He's running for governor. I'm running for lieutenant governor. And the co-op is gearing up to run a slate of 50 candidates for legislature. So we're going for the whole thing, getting a governing majority in the near term in 2 election cycles. That's the plan.
How can people support that? I mean, more importantly, how can we need to do that? Like, I can't even fathom a universe wherein anybody in Florida could come together in any way, shape, or form to do something like that. We can't even get the Tri-County progressives to come together to form an organization. 3 counties out of how many can't even somehow unite out of 67. So like, how can people support this? Like, what's the website or what is the organization?
Yes, absolutely. So Matt and I, it's Matt and Cynthia for RI. You can go there and find out how to volunteer, support, donate. That's really, really important. And then also the Rhode Island Political Cooperative is the cooperative's kind of website. We're running together on a shared platform. So we're running a statewide.
Rhode Island Political Cooperative.
Political Cooperative is the name of the cooperative's website.
We need that.
And so watching them, I think to answer your question about how this can be done, is we are actually right now, a lot of states are watching what we do in Rhode Island, because if we're able to pull this off, it can be repeated in other states. And rarely, this is another interesting issue, is that fundraising, right? We're not taking corporate PAC money, we're not taking fossil fuel money, and progressives, like, we're out here, we don't have a lot of money. So how are we actually able to fundraise? And on the state level, it's very, very difficult. Congressional candidates can hop over to New York, DC, et cetera, and fundraise. But with this model, because states are so desperate and Democrats are so incredibly desperate for change, there are donors that are willing to look at Rhode Island, donate to candidates there, because they know if we succeed, then it would be able to kind of happen in their state. And so we have to start thinking of investing cross borders as well, so that we can start to build governing power across the state. And sometimes in Rhode Island, that might mean in places that are close, hopping over and volunteering across the district. We have to be able to share resources and in that way, in a very smart way, in order to accomplish this. And that means if another district wins, we win. If another state wins, we win. And we have to think that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a while. This is an absolute necessity. And of course, being in New England, especially when you have states like New Hampshire that are so vital to electoral politics. Maine is a state with currently, Lord knows you'll get some people that'll try to change that, and they have. Maine has a very, what I would call flexible electoral system, especially with ranked choice voting, among other things. So there are ways to get involved. And of course, we saw what happened with the Sunrise Movement getting behind Ed Markey. And he's been, listen, hats off to him. I mean, he has been an environmental champion, if there ever has been. There aren't many of them, but he's definitely, touting it as hard as anybody. So the change is possible. It's just, we need to speak with individuals like yourself, because we're stuck here in Florida. We're stuck in no man's land in many ways.
We have to live vicariously through others. That's why we're big supporters of the New York Health Act, CalCare, and whole Washington, because the chances of us getting healthcare in the state of Florida is we'll be underwater long. We'll be scuba diving long before that'll happen. So we're very big proponents of supporting other state initiatives, because that's all we got here.
Yeah. And you understand that ripple effect hopefully will make its way.
Well, and even if it doesn't, like, I feel personally better off if the people of New York have healthcare. I do. I feel better off. I mean, it sucks. I wish we had healthcare too. But like, let's say how it's only a benefit for all of us. When we all do better, we all do better. Like I don't understand the concept of keeping people down or thinking of it as a pie. I've always like the more people that are doing better is better.
There is a sin.
It's really not that complicated.
There's a sin. There are two sins. One is greed, and the other is envy. And unfortunately, that is what runs through the veins of a lot of people.
It's very in politics. That's true, and it's everybody wants their credit. Everybody wants.
Oh yeah.
Nobody. It's like, and we really don't like to play that way. And I mean. It's not how we operate.
I've come up with a lot of ideas. I have heard people on.
He created Trump's new campaign slogan. Yeah. You don't see us suing for, right? We said it before we said it as a joke.
And for like 3 months prior. And then we saw it on a press release from Trump. And I'm like,
didn't pay us for that.
What? I did not know this.
Yes, well, Peter started.
I told people, Cynthia, and it's very nice to meet you.
Okay, now you've asked for it. Now it's got to happen. Now it's got to happen.
So what happened was that we were doing the podcast, and it was really incredible. No laughing. It's really serious, tremendously, incredibly important. So what we did was we came up with a slogan that people could understand. Very easy.
Well, Peter came up with it.
Make America great again.
Again.
No.
Really great.
Really
great. Really good.
Said it
really great.
First we were on the Humanist Report with Mike Figueredo doing a show, and he said that, and then like a few months later, that's what they're actually using.
Oh,
I was like, somebody definitely heard it from his campaign. Like, there's there's like no way that.
Or it's just so basic and stupid. Like you were mocking, like we were saying mocking,
but it was the best they had. They were like, your joke was like the best that they. Yeah, they were like, okay, this is gold.
Hey, listen, you know what? I will say this. He is definitely the most entertaining president of my lifetime. So, you know, and that doesn't mean that's a good thing, but he certainly is good for a laugh. I can say that. All right. So I got to confirm this. Matt and Cynthia 4RI.com.
Exactly. You can find me on Twitter.
Send some love to Rhode Island and check out the Rhode Island Political Cooperative, because this is the kind of thing we need to all be doing. Again, I can't get 3 groups of progressive caucuses in 3 counties to unite together. Right? So nobody wants to forfeit their little fiefdom. Everybody likes to be in charge of their little fiefdom. And the idea of combining that, well, then that would be a couple of people without being in charge of their own fiefdom. And they don't like that.
Yeah.
So it's a problem. But I mad respect for that you guys are doing this, and I can only hope. And again, people, we are going to need to evacuate down here. So now let's put Rhode Island on the list of potential places to relocate to. Like that's basically all I'm doing, figuring out where I'm going to move, because we're going to be screaming.
Come on home.
Seriously. All right, now tell me about Johnny Cakes. Most importantly, what is that?
Okay, so there are Johnny Cakes people, and then there are Doughboy people. I'm a Doughboy person, so I'm not going to come up here and talk about Johnny Cakes. Like, I'm sorry. So there's like a thing here about that. So I love Doughboys. That's my go-to. It's
what
like
is
fried.
That?
It's like a fried dough with like powdered sugar, and you get it at festivals.
Yeah, it had to be fried. Okay,
it's airy and doughy and amazing. Johnny Cakes are similar, just a little bit more dense, but we have all sorts of things that are very unique here. Coffee milk is another one. It's like you can only get it up here. So definitely a reason to kind of come on up and visit, because I heard you earlier and you love food. This is the food capital. I'm telling you, there's just so much good food here. Best pizza ever. You have to come on up.
Well, and then I know I'm from New Jersey, and I'll debate you on the pizza thing. But definitely seafood. You guys have that.
Yes. Yes.
And of course, you have the Farrelly brothers, and Dumb and Dumber is one of my all-time favorite movies.
We do have a sense of humor up here. I will say that.
And then you've got isn't Provincetown is a very pro-gay, like a very good.
Yes. That's in
girls saying about it, so it has to be good.
That's in Massachusetts, because people often get it mixed up. So that we have Providence, which is the capital of Rhode Island, and then we have Provincetown, which is on the Cape in Massachusetts. So it's not very far from here. And yes, it is the gay capital of the world. They were accepting and open and proud well before the rest of the world was accepting that, and was an oasis for a lot of our LGBTQIA community members. And so very, very proud about that part of our kind of New England legacy.
Yeah.
But right now, as we know, our rights are under attack. Right now, there's a bill, an anti-trans bill coming to the floor in the Senate. So we're not out of the woods. Even here, there's a lot of work. There's work right now where school committees are trying to end, critical race theory, all of the same things that other people are experiencing, we're experiencing, and we're at risk, just like everyone else, until we get those people in seats of decision making and get governing power.
Yeah.
If we elect representatives who are not bought by corporate special interests, they will focus on issues that get in the way of corporate special interests,
Yes.
not protect corporate special interests. That is why trans bills are what makes it to the floor, and not bills like solar,
Yes.
geothermal, wind energy, anything that's going to screw with big oil, universal health care, screw with big pharma and private insurance, and of course, anything related to a living wage, which screws with big business and Wall Street. So bottom line, you're kicking ass and taking names, Cynthia. We really appreciate you coming on.
Guys, show some love to Rhode Island, because you know what? They're small but mighty. And if they can do it, then maybe there's some hope, not for us, but for other normal states, there might be some hope.
Hey, listen, when you are that close in proximity to a state like New Hampshire, when it comes to the next presidential election and you want to elect a progressive, when you have a slate of candidates elected in Rhode Island, think about the influence that has just on the New England region.
Oh, we send buses. We'll send bus loads. Like, we don't
Absolutely.
mess around. There's impact here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Are you a Patriots fan?
Of course she is.
I have to be. Yes.
Unfortunately. We were getting along so swimmingly, and now there's that.
Well, now that Von Miller has signed with the Buffalo Bills, you guys really don't have much to worry about. As a Dolphins fan, you'll be sitting in the back, and
no, my life sucks anyway. But I live to hate the Patriots. That's it. I think at this point in my life, I actually hate the Patriots more than I love the Dolphins.
Oh my goodness!
I've created a career out of it.
That's a fan who's taken the lumps one too many times. Cynthia Mendes, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for being in this fight. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, and if you win, you'll have to come back for sure. If you don't win, you can still come back. But
I cannot.
When is it? And before you go, when is the election?
September.
Okay.
Wow, that's a very late. That's a very late primary. Wow.
Yeah, it is. It's a little bit later in the year. So definitely all the support, all the love, very much appreciated. And you can follow me on Cynthia Mendes on Twitter. And I can't wait to be back in the fall.
All right. Thank you, Cynthia. Great. It was so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, she was lovely. I always say she was lovely.
Well, you like to say that.
I do like to say that. I'm like totally enchanted with what they're doing. And yet I can't fathom a universe wherein we'd be able to do that in Florida. There's just way too much ego here, and there's not enough concern for the collective. We don't
trying to get people to run for the seats that make sense versus ones that are running for
Indian River County, State Senate, somebody, anybody, please. Yeah, we have a story time.
We do.
Guys, you got to get rid of this. So today we're going to be doing a little segment that I'm calling Greetings from Hypocrisia, where our shit don't stink. And I was sitting there looking to do like a news, and basically all of the news articles that I kept coming up with were accusing Putin of being a war criminal. They were all, Putin's a war criminal. Putin's a war criminal. Again, he might be, not saying whether he is or not. He seems to be doing things that are war crime-ish. So that's fine. And so if you go to the next slide, we'll see what I came up with. So these were the four main stories I saw. Could Vladimir Putin be charged with war crimes? U.S. Senate unanimously condemns Putin as war criminal. Is it time to call Putin's war in Ukraine genocide? Biden on Putin. I think he is a war criminal. This shit can't write itself, people. Is it time to call his war in Ukraine a genocide? I don't know. How about what we've been doing in Yemen with the Saudis for so many years? Isn't that a genocide? So the fact that we're so quick to jump on the term war criminal is just, I don't understand how people aren't laughing at this.
And yet we are still aiding a genocide in Yemen, which is even worse than what's going on in Ukraine.
And by the way, the sanctions in Afghanistan will be responsible for killing more children in the 1 year that since Biden's sanctions will have been in place than the entire Afghanistan 20-year war combined. And I would argue that sanctions are a war crime.
They are.
And so when we start looking at our impact, like, again, I'm not condoning Putin invading the Ukraine. I'm sorry, it's not the Ukraine. I'm not condoning that. I'm anti-war. I'm anti-imperialism, no matter who's doing it.
I think a lot of people would feel a lot more comfortable as a collective in this country if we were calling out the crimes of Putin at the same time calling out the crimes of our country that we're committing right now.
Well, right. And then if we want to start trying people for war crimes, I'm all for it. But I think we should go in chronological order. So as you can see, I have assembled a nice collage montage of people that in my lifetime, in recent administrations, I think are guilty of war crimes. I think have committed lots of war crimes. Madeleine Albright even flat out said it was worth it.
Killing 500,000 Iraqis.
Was worth it.
Yeah.
So, and you've got Hillary there. She basically expected us to send a drone.
We saw, he died.
He died. We're talking about somebody who actually suggested.
Can't we just drone bomb?
Can't we drone bomb Julian Assange? Huh. And so these people.
I never told her to say that.
No, you have your own. That's his whole own stories of war. Every single person in this picture, and there's many more that I couldn't fit in this montage. I mean, and then you've got side acts, like you've got Rumsfeld, Wolfowitz, you have John Bolton,
Yeah, you should have had John Bolton.
I did, but I was really kind of sticking with Secretary.
That's what's even more amazing. I have to say, everyone is still talking about Trump right now like he's president. It's unbelievable.
But I went with Secretary of State, President, Vice President.
But the point
situation.
I'm making is the fact that you have all of these upper class liberals who have huge influence in the Democratic Party who are basically quoting John Bolton as the person of honesty and integrity regarding what Trump was and was not going to do as president. It's like, this to me is when Trump says drain the swamp. Well, no one is a bigger swamp snake creature of the worst kind than John Bolton. And you're quoting him. There is no honesty, integrity. And this is the thing that liberals especially, and maybe it's just you keep kicking me.
I'm sorry, I didn't feel it.
So people that constantly have this need to have heroes or our side of the good guys or Dick Cheney, welcome to the resistance because he wore a mask. There is this, Trump has broke people's brains.
Let me explain to you. Every single one of the people in this picture could be incarcerated for war crimes. And that's just based on the stuff that we know about.
President Biden has committed war crimes with the sanctions on Afghanistan.
Yes.
That's not up
and
to
that's
debate.
just and that's not including his tenure as vice president.
Correct.
And as a senator.
He was responsible for the coup in Crimea in 2014. He is responsible for his own son having a specific job that concerns energy concerns for the United States in Ukraine.
Yeah.
All of this is connected. The reason you hate Trump is because he does it brazenly out in public. They're all guilty. All of them.
It's grotesque.
The people who are not guilty are people who are chastised and thrown out to the wolves because they're not with it. They're not part of the, they're not part of the
I might also argue, and this is something that we talked with Sharif Snuggs about. Shugs. Remember from the about is that we could argue that we committed genocide on a regular in this country by not giving people health care and housing.
100%.
You have people that are going to be dying in the streets that don't need to be in this country because of policy choices. And I might say that could be considered a genocide against people that are impoverished and people that are vulnerable.
And the biggest criminal again, listen, George W. Bush and Dick Cheney are right there for the absolute worst. But the fact that Mr. Kissinger is still alive, he has probably drank a lot of blood.
He's immortal.
But he is Agent Orange. He is Agent Orange Kissinger. This is a man who completely destroyed Laos and Cambodia. And
there's no accountability.
There is none.
No, we don't care about that. And what's amazing to me is how quick they are to start calling this war in Ukraine a genocide.
They still consider.
They love that word, genocide. I don't understand. Check out the Ukraine.
Kissinger is still a part of polite society.
I mean, Yemen.
I remember when Hillary was touting her support from Kissinger.
She worshiped Kissinger. That was like her idol as Secretary of State, was a war criminal. And yet we are still like lauding these people. These people are still considered somehow like better and superior and elitist. And we call them out and bring them on shows and give them ratings, and they write books and they tour the country and they live in $14 million estates in Martha's Vineyard. And yet they've killed so many innocent civilians around the entire world. Yeah. And yes, participated in a genocide. Every single person that's been president since we've been involved in the genocide in Yemen with Saudi Arabia is a war criminal and has committed genocide. Every single president that has served during what we've been doing in Yemen has been committing genocide. Okay. You know, they could call the fact that they're so quick to use that word now. And I swear I wish my uncle was alive, because he actually was an expert on genocide. That's what he studied. He was a PhD, that he was a psychologist, and he studied genocide around the world. And I got to tell you, he'd have a lot to say about this group of people right here. And could probably even account like a body count to all of them.
I think people in this country are just tired of the hypocrisy. I think they understand that what Putin is doing is absolutely wrong. It is a war crime, what he is doing. We feel sympathetic, obviously, towards Zelensky.
Of course.
You know, kudos to him. I mean, listen, he's fighting the good fight. He doesn't have to. He has his way of getting out of there. But I think he fears that the country is going to get taken over, and it probably will. And, you know, what we're doing is trying to figure out a way, as I would hope. I mean, I don't know how much Biden, quite frankly, I've been maintaining for a while. I don't think he makes any decisions. You have to be able to give both nations an exit ramp. You have to be able to allow Putin to save face, and Zelensky obviously looks like a hero already, but there has to be a way out of this. And if what you're doing are two things: one, ramping up the weaponry for Ukraine to use against Russia, and number two, which is probably even worse, if you are going to have corporate media every day in the White House press corps room saying, why are we not going to war? I don't know what else to say. We have said, when we say that media is the enemy of the state, corporate media is the enemy of the state.
Well, the corporate media sort of is the state. I would, you know what I'm
enemy
saying?
Of the people.
It is yeah, that's what I mean, enemy of ours. When people want to know why we're not going to war, I feel like all I would say is weapons of mass destruction, which, by the way, again, and I have this documented, I knew at the time was bullshit, because everyone now might say they thought it was bullshit, but no, I really knew it was bullshit. And I knew it was just manufacturing consent. And yet we've now done that, I think, 3 times since then. And yet we're doing it again. I just don't understand how people fall for this every time. Every time. Oh my God. It's like, we don't even have to wait for a generation to go by to forget. No. Like we're forgetting. I mean, every single one of these people is in my adult lifetime. Bill Clinton, I'm sad to say, was the first president I voted for in his first election.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I was an idiot. I was 21. But anyway, the point is...
Did you vote for me in 96?
I probably did. But also still stupid.
That's because my charm never wears off.
Yeah, whatever. But like, all of this is in my lifetime. These are the war criminals in my lifetime. And that does include Kissinger, because even though I wasn't active in the 70s, I was still alive.
I am somehow still breathing.
Just stop. That's not even good. He's disgusting. He's like the Crypt Keeper.
He is.
Like, if you put him and McConnell in a room, it would be like be like death and deather. I can't with them. So anyway, do we have a problem with the guest? Did he end up clicking on the Google link? And
I don't know. We'll find out.
So this is sort of, and I'm going to be called ageist for saying this, but sometimes when we have people on the show that are a little older, and this gentleman is like a centenarian.
Almost a centenarian.
The technology is sometimes elusive. So I don't know, and I haven't been communicating with them. So we're going to see what's going on with this gentleman. But I looked him up, and he's very, very cool. John Cobb. And if you guys, and I don't know, hopefully he'll be here, he'll come on, he'll figure out the StreamYard link and all will go well. But they're working on this thing called the Living Earth Movement. And the concept is very simple, right? That nobody can exist on a dead planet, meaning that we can all sit here and fight over things like border sovereignty, economic systems, all of these things as to who's right. But when the planet's dead, it's not going to matter. And so the idea is that all of the countries, and it's specifically US and China.
Sean, please hit the like button. Everybody hit the like button and share.
So US and China specifically must come together and be on the same page regarding dealing with climate crisis. That's the only way this is going to work. And that's essentially what John Cobb is getting at. And he is also someone that has spent his life like researching and investigating like foreign relations and our relations with China. And he's extremely knowledgeable. So I'm hoping he can get himself. He should
be here in a few minutes.
Okay, that he can get himself on here. But it's true. So everybody, when you're doing your recycling and you're driving your hybrid cars and your electric cars, and all of that is really important. It is. It's all important stuff. Single-use plastic is stupid. Like all of that stuff needs to go. But if the US and China do not get on the same page as far as tackling climate issues, then all of the other stuff isn't going to make a bit of difference. No. Because really, this is a mass thing. It isn't an individual thing. And when they put that burden on us, that's because they don't want to deal with it in the way that they need to deal with it. And we also will be speaking with Melissa, the goat lady is coming. The goat lady is coming.
We're also going to try to do a military panel perhaps next week. That's something we've been working on. We'll see. Okay. Reached out to, we've already been approached by a couple of members of the military who want to come on and talk. So, we definitely want to have somebody with good, frankly, I would like to have, if we could potentially get somebody who served in the military during the conflict in Crimea back in 2014.
Oh, I was going to do, I could definitely hook you up with someone who served in the weapons of mass, we must go in for weapons of mass destruction on the ground right across in Iraq. I have those people, but I don't know somebody who was in Crimea.
No, but that would be big. Guys, if you like our content, if you appreciate what we're doing, please go to patreon.com/generational change. We do not take a salary. We support local efforts such as
What Peter means to say is that all of the proceeds from Generational Change go to our nonprofit organization, GenCore, which we use that money to do different local efforts as far as service. And also we do donate to non-corporate candidates around the country.
And one thing before Dr. Cobb comes on, hopefully, that we do want to talk about is yesterday, two awesome ladies, friends who were actually supporters of Jen when she ran for Congress, former city commissioners Tina Paul and Ileana Salazar, unfortunately did not win their races. But one of the things that we noticed was that these local races, especially these nonpartisan races, and even though there's always a political bend to them, and
I have to just qualify who you're talking about, because who he's talking about are commissioners from the town of Surfside. And if you recall, that's where the building collapse happened over the summer. And these happen to be two commissioners, by the way, that have been pushing and pushing and pushing for an investigation and keep getting turned away. And now that the lawsuits are going to be settling and not going to court, there isn't going to be an investigation into what's going on there. And the town of Surfside has spent its own money. There's also a national allowance that's been put aside to do this. But these two commissioners, these two councilwomen, were the ones that were banging loudly to do the investigation. And now they're no longer on the commission. We will be having them on to talk about this, because this is a huge problem that they're not getting to the bottom of what happened to Champlain Towers and Surfside. And now two of those commissioners just lost their seats. Now, those could be completely unrelated things. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is the two biggest advocates to getting to the bottom of what happened at Champlain Towers are now no longer serving on the Surfside Commission. So I think that's a problem. Whether or not those are related, it's still a problem, people. So, yeah, because Champlain Towers will not be the only one.
No.
They've already evacuated multiple buildings.
A building that's like just a couple of blocks up?
Yeah, they've already evacuated multiple buildings along the beach, not just in Surfside, but I believe one has been evacuated in Hallandale. Like there have been multiple evacuations. So you might not get the building collapsing and killing people in the middle of the night scenario, but we're still dealing with buildings that are having that issue and being evacuated. So, hopefully nobody gets killed from this, but the problem still remains. And so the idea that we're not going to be able to investigate or get to the bottom of exactly what happened at Surfside should be an outrage to everybody, and especially people that live in coastal communities, because if you don't think that construction issue is going to affect you, if you have anything built in the 80s and early 80s and beyond, this could affect you.
And there are a lot of buildings that are old, not just in Surfside, but in some of the other communities, especially as you head north towards places like Aventura, Hallandale, Hollywood, even Dania. These buildings are old, and they're on the water, and they're not.
And there are going to be fatalities from this. There are going to be, because you can evacuate when you see it, and that's great, but there's going to be times when you don't. And just the mere fact that we are not upgrading our infrastructure, we are not dealing with this. And the only way this can be dealt with. And I feel like I'm the only person that has said this. And I see people talking about the condo issue and the saltwater erosion and the intrusion and all of these. Like, I see that, but yet nobody else is mentioning that these associations cannot afford to fix the problems, even if they want to. So you can make laws that force them to fix the problem, but you can't bleed a rock. And I know that when you're talking about those old condos, you have people that have been living in there for years. A lot of them probably don't even have mortgages anymore. And you're going to think that somebody living and potentially on a very fixed income is going to come up with a $300,000 assessment for a one-bedroom condo, which is what they were saying it would have been at Champlain Towers. These people can't do that. No. So you're going to have condos and condos of people that are going to lose the value in their homes. Or lose their homes, both. They're not going to be able to afford to fix them. And they're going to have to be evacuated because they're not going to be able to live in an unsafe building. So this is huge. This isn't even something that the state can deal with. This is an MMT situation. And therefore we need the currency issuer has to be the one to fix this problem. And so I don't know like all they're doing in Tallahassee is coming up with rules to force the condo associations to address the issues. Okay. I don't see how they're going to be able to fix the issues. Most of the people in those old buildings, I would venture to say, could not afford the assessments to fix the buildings.
I still don't understand how people want to live on top of one another the way that they do. That is something that I still find
I've never understood that. I've never been a condo-minded person. It's not my vibe. However, I feel very badly for people that are going to lose their homes. And when I say their homes, not even physically, but financially. If you can't afford to fix it and it's uninhabitable,
and it's not what the foundation is built on.
Exactly. Then what are you going to do with that? And there's going to be a mass problem of this, people. Mass problem. I grew up down here. A lot of the buildings, many of the buildings from when I were growing up, they're all still down there. And I'm old, people. So that's old. Champlain Towers, when was that built?
I think in the 1970s.
Right. That's been built in my lifetime. Built and washed away in my lifetime. And I just, I feel like we're the people running around saying the sky is falling and nobody's listening.
No one is listening.
Nobody's listening. And I hate to say this, but to anybody who thinks of like buying property in Florida, like coastal property or condos, people, even if you buy a brand new condo and your condo is in solid shape and it's good and it even can deal with the saltwater and, encroachment and all that, you're going to be living amongst graveyard buildings that can't afford to be fixed. The property value of being on a beach that has a bunch of abandoned structures that nobody can afford to fix, that's going to hurt all of our property values, even if you live in the fancy building where you can drive your Porsche up to your condo, which, by the way, is so disgusting to me. I could vomit.
Yes.
The level of, we were just down in Surfside yesterday. The level of wealth on display down there, it really was suffocatingly disgusting to me. Every other car was some fancy designer car.
I saw 3 Bentley SUVs over the course of like 5 minutes.
One was pink. We saw a pink Bentley SUV. Now, it wasn't Mary Kay. For those of you getting all excited, I don't think you could sell enough Mary Kay to get a Bentley. But like, it was grotesque. It was grotesque, and I saw a disgusting amount of Teslas. And also,
stop hating on Tesla.
I hate on the Tesla. I'm sorry, I do. I hate on him. I hate on him. I hate on him. I hate on Elon Musk. I hate on the fucking Tesla. And you know what else? We saw like the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris. And I'm sitting here. And by the way, to any man out there, when I see someone drive by in one of those type of like, look at me sports cars, all I'm thinking about is small penis. That's it. That's what you got. And Hummers. I don't know what it is you're compensating for and why anybody would want to drive a Ferrari or a Lamborghini on Miami Beach on city streets. How is that even fun? You're clearly just wanting people to look at you because you have money. Now, if you were to tell me, give me the keys to one of those and let me drive on like the Autobahn, that would be fun. That I would understand. How it is fun to drive those cars from light to light on city block. I don't understand how that's remotely fun. I think it would be miserable. I feel like all you'd want to do is like put that thing into like fifth gear and just fly. So I don't know how that's fun, but all I think of people is small penis. What are you compensating for? I don't understand this. Sorry.
You're pretty sexist.
I don't care. No, and when I see a woman driving, first of all, I never see a woman driving those sports cars.
No, actually, it was mostly women that were driving those Bentley SUVs.
Yes, I'm talking about those sports cars. And when I see people driving Hummers or I see women driving Hummers, I think that their husband must have small penis. Like, that's what I think. I'm sorry. You're compensating in a big way for something. And I just don't know what that is. So whatever. And I'm just, the amount of disgusting wealth display yesterday, it was nauseating. It's nauseating. And Surfside, which is this cute little town of small little like craftsman style bungalows, which yes, they're expensive now, but this is a town that's regular homes on regular lots with little stores and walking distance. It's a cute little town. And now you've got people who are taking over the commission, are part of the building companies. Literally, one of the guys who just won a seat on the council is in charge of like 6 different construction projects.
Yeah, that's a very big problem.
The big conflict of interest. But you have people wanting to build 8,000 plus square foot homes in Surfside. Get the fuck out of here with that. Go somewhere else with that.
We're demonetized.
I don't care. We were already demonetized. It's insufferable. You don't need a house that big in Surfside. There's small little bungalows, and you want to like.
If you don't know Surfside, it's a wonderful little town.
Oh my God,
it really has a wonderful vibe to it, and
the whoredom knows no bounds.
Unfortunately, this is a town that is now being taken over by corporate interests,
big time developers, and it's out of control. They're going to now look like Sunny Isles, and people. By the way,
it won't take long.
Anybody living in Surfside that wants to escape, Peter has his real estate license now, so check him out if you're looking to get out of Surfside.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are going to look.
Because you guys are in for if what just happened on that council.
Yeah,
you guys are screwed.
All we can say is there is a certain group of people that is taking over the town now, and they will all be there soon enough, and that's what's going to happen.
So if you're in Surfside and you don't want to be living in what Sunny Isles looks like, I'd be considering an evacuation plan at this point, because unfortunately, little Surfside. And when they talk about it, like they want one of the men running for mayor actually said he wanted Surfside to be the next Aspen. Yeah, you don't need that. That's called Bal Harbor. It's one town to the north of you in Surfside. If that's what you want, that is sort of Aspen, but Bal Harbor. And that's not Surfside. I can't stand when people move into places that have their own character and their own personality and then want to change it. I can't stand that crap. It just bothers me immensely.
No, you probably shouldn't do that.
No.
Probably not the smartest move.
No, not a smart move. I would, honestly, there's not any place right now that I would buy beachfront anything, quite honestly. And all it'll take, by the way, in Florida, we don't even need a big storm. Superstorm Sandy in New Jersey did massive damage, and it didn't even qualify as a hurricane, people. We could have a Category 2 sitting over us for so long now because they don't move anymore. You're not understanding.
So what we are now going to have is the opportunity to have a conversation with a gentleman who has seen quite a bit in his lifetime, including many changes to this planet that are probably not so good. And I would be listening to somebody who has been here for almost a century. So without further ado, Dr. Cobb, welcome to Generational Change.
Hi.
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm late. I was using the wrong number.
I told him that happens sometimes because people click on the Google link.
was given to me earlier today, but maybe the corrected one was also given today. It's confusing when you get a lot.
Yeah, no,
we apologize for
I'm-
any inconvenience, but we're very happy to have you here.
Okay, good. Okay, I'm ready to go.
Okay, so we talk a lot about climate crisis on this show, and obviously there's so many different forms of climate crisis. We're seeing it in so many different ways. I mean, we're down in South Florida. We were just talking about how last summer there was a building collapse in Surfside. We were just there yesterday, and so this is something that we're seeing all over the place. And we don't always talk about it as globally as we need to. We talk about it like, okay, we'll drive a hybrid car or we're recycling. But one of the key things, and we do talk about it, is that we need to be working with countries like China. This needs to be a global thing, not to say people shouldn't recycle. Everybody should recycle. But would you talk a little bit about like the importance of us with China specifically in terms of what we need to do to address climate crisis?
Well, thank you very much. And that's the topic I'm particularly focusing on right now. I think we are all agreed that at the present time, we do not have an international understanding that was sufficient to prevent things from getting a great deal worse. Glasgow is the most recent event, and there's probably some good progress made there, but no one thinks that even if everybody lived up to the agreements made in Glasgow, that would save us from really terrible disasters. Now, the two countries that do the most polluting and the two countries that are also the most powerful, the two countries that have the greatest influence on the rest of the world, are the United States and China. And when Biden actually reached out to China and said, we need to cooperate on this topic, but at the same time was building up military alliances against China and propagandizing in every way the United States could to make people angry with China. It seemed to me you can't do both at the same time and expect to get good results. So I actually, for the first time in my life, I wrote a letter to President Biden and President Xi. And to President Biden, I said, if you are serious about wanting China to cooperate with you, you'll have to at least stop repeatedly saying that China is our number one enemy. When China is repeatedly called the enemy of the United States, cooperation is not the response that you can expect. And then I also, in the same letter, said to President Xi that if Biden makes any kind of gesture to improve relationships, please realize that that's probably costing him politically. So don't dismiss it as trivial, but please join in for the sake of our descendants. And then, of course, I was asking that the United States and China work together to give the world the leadership it needs. Well, the thing that was truly amazing was that Biden did say we should be calling China not our number one enemy, but our number one competitor. That's perfectly okay.
Sure.
Competitors can cooperate, compete on some matters and cooperate on others. We do that all the time. And then President Xi did join into the Glasgow meeting. And there is a committee that was established with high-level Chinese leadership and high-level US leadership. So I thought, wow, I don't know whether any of this has anything to do with what I did, but since it all is exactly what I was asking for, we ought to keep on working on this project. And it's a very hard project to work on because, of course, the general relationships in U.S. and China are deteriorating, and the propaganda in the United States is still so negative toward China. And people I know very well and greatly respect are still victims of that propaganda. It's the same thing in the Near East, that we know who to hate and who to love. We know to hate Russia, especially Putin.
Right.
Man, this use of propaganda to generate hatred of whoever is doing things the U.S. doesn't like. It appalls me that it's so successful. We have been lied into so many wars. You would think eventually,
Right?
people would know that you couldn't trust the description of the enemies in the American press. I mean, that's common sense anyway.
And you have certainly lived quite a life. You have seen, obviously, the Depression, World War II, Korea,
It's like Groundhog
Vietnam.
Day for him, probably. I can't believe I just brought this up about weapons of mass destruction. How many times are people going to fall for this crap?
Dr. Cobb, what would you compare our current situation regarding the conflict that we are slowly but surely making much worse and possibly leading to World War III? And obviously China just kind of waiting in the wings to get the windfall from it, because they are in an extremely beneficial position in so many ways, especially economically. Could you compare this to any point in history that you've lived through that you could say is somewhat comparable? And, what is going to be the solution to get our way out of it, quite frankly?
Yeah. Well, I think it's that the situation currently is a brand new situation. Obviously, you couldn't find a comparable situation before World War II. I mean, the existence of all these nuclear facilities and nuclear weapons puts more at stake. But even short of that, we are heading for making the planet uninhabitable, even if we don't get involved with any of the nuclear things. And so the need to change attitudes, to say, no, this business about the earth ceasing to be a living earth is so important, so much more important than any of the things we squabble about, that we should give that a priority as a nation. And if China gave it a priority, I think China is more willing to give it priority if we stop possibly because it's doing well.
That's what it's all about, Doc. That's what it's all about. The U.S., which has run roughshod over this entire globe since World War II, finally has met its match in many ways with China, and they're trying to hold this off as long as they possibly can. But what they don't realize is that I think China has a lot more sense, especially in their leadership, than obviously the leadership that Russia has at this moment. And I think that they understand that we do need to have some type of a meeting of the minds here, because we see it here in Florida. Like, we see the ecological changes of our planet. We see it. It's very real. It doesn't rain here the way that it used to. And when it does rain, it floods a lot. In ways
it actually floods even when it doesn't rain. We could have a king tide in Miami and the streets are flooded. And it's like, this is happening right now.
And everyone thinks it's not going to happen in my lifetime. You're not going to see this. You're not going to see that. And you are living proof of somebody who's almost a centenarian to say, oh no, it is happening. Right. I can assure you it's happening, and you need to act now. And that's why we have these conversations, because we don't want legacies like yours when you're gone to be forgotten, because we have to live with this now. And we are dead serious. We say it all the time. The environment is everything because it connects everything. It connects our economy. It connects our health. It connects everything. And yet, and maybe it's because we're stuck in Florida, we just happen to be in a situation where we're surrounded by a lot of people who don't get that sense of urgency.
And yet we're in water.
Yeah.
Literally surrounded by water encroaching around us and under us, and they're still not seeing it.
So what is the Living Earth movement, and what is the ultimate goal of the Living Earth movement?
Okay, well, the ultimate goal, you understand, I'm saying that in a kind of special voice because ultimate goals are never achieved. But the ultimate goal is a global ecological civilization. Is that a phrase? Ecological civilization, is that a term?
It should be.
Okay. You made it. We'll take it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and that, of course, includes being sustainable. And I would settle for a great deal less than a genuine ecological civilization.
Right.
At least I would say we can work on that for 200 years, but we can't work on the problems of avoiding, crossing thresholds that cannot be reversed. We're doing that every day now. New species are going extinct and you can't revive them. And it looks like we're going to be destroying the bees and other
if the
insects.
Bees go, we go.
These are just astonishing. I will say, I've been feeling this since 1969. And right around 1970, there were a few years in which the nation was really concerned. And we got a little bit of good legislation, and Nixon signed it, even though he's not the person I would have, chosen for that. But the people whose lives would have been economically disrupted, the corporations, got hold of it. And what they succeeded in doing is persuading us, you're talking in such sweeping generalizations, you need to pick particular issues and focus on them. And they fragmented the movement. And then after that, what people serving any one of those causes, saving the whales or learning from the indigenous people, there are 1,000 different fragments of what goes on. People who push one of those, they are dismissed as special interests. It was a brilliant move on the part of those who did not want to make changes. And the one encouraging thing I can say is that about 2 years ago, a change began to occur. I experienced it personally. I have been at the margin of the church. I've been at the margin of the university. I've been at the margin of the culture, and that's not a bad place to be. But I wanted, I was looking for serious action, and others like to mention this as one issue alongside many other issues. But that just won't do it. But I think that the changes that have actually taken place have brought a few million people to take us seriously. Now, that few million is not enough, because there are then tens of millions who react in the other way. But the climate crisis has gotten the attention of the public in a way that none of the other. And I think if we have a spring without flowers, and if the fruit trees no longer bear fruit, I think that will get the attention of people.
If you had
Go
ahead. If you had the opportunity, based on all of your knowledge and everything that you've seen, and you would say that this one thing above all others right now, if we did this right now, would have an immediate impact on our carbon footprint, reducing our emissions to zero is needed within a certain time frame that seems to be dwindling by the day in terms of how fast we need to move. What would you suggest would be the way to go? I mean, obviously, we can certainly change our energy grid. We could change it tomorrow if we wanted to. You know,
Exactly.
It's just when people say that we can't change, it's like, no, it's bullshit.
That's policy choices.
We can absolutely, we absolutely have the bandwidth to do it. The president could declare a national emergency tomorrow and get the Defense Production Act going on solar panels, wind farms, geothermal plants. It could do all of that stuff like that. But what would you say would be something that you would do right now if you had the authority to say, okay, I'm going to do this right now? One thing, what would you do?
That's very hard to say because everything is so interconnected.
Yeah.
And you see, the one thing we have to do is to change our minds.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. If you could change people's minds, that would be it.
Yeah.
That would do it. And
I'm a Christian theologian, and I'm not saying this to say we all go to church and that's going to improve matters, because lots of people go to church and still their most basic commitment is to a structure of thinking and acting that Jesus said was the service of mammon. Mammon is another way of talking about wealth, money, something like that. And Jesus said, you cannot serve both God and mammon. I would say, if you don't want to talk about God, talk about humanity. You cannot serve humanity and mammon. But the possibility of reordering things in a way that is not, that actually reduces profits, for example, that is not part of the discussion.
Yeah.
And until that's part of the discussion, the chances of doing enough, just, I don't think it exists. I heard one recent example of the mindset that's really written into law. You know, stockholders can sue the corporation if it does things that reduce their income. So it's not just the vicious corporate leaders. They have to do what they're doing. Okay, well, there's a company that focuses upon the slaughter of one particular species of whale. And it's making good profits by killing the whales, but it's killing them at a rate that means they'll all be gone in another couple of years. I mean, that species. And so some people have asked them, wouldn't it be better if you just killed them a little more slowly so that they had a chance to reproduce and survive as a species and you could keep doing it? Said, no, we've calculated it, and it's much better to make as much money as we can quickly and then take that money and invest it in something else. Well, you see, as long as that mindset is not only the way people think, but it's the way the law requires.
I think
it's just, but right now, of course, I am focused upon getting people simply to say, it is worth setting aside all our other concerns and working with China. And so they could come up with it. I mean, for example, if we stopped poisoning the earth could absorb a lot of our carbon.
Right.
A lot of it. I'm not the person to ask about figures, how many square miles you'd have to do, you know. But there are so many ways we could solve the problem technically. But if you start poisoning the earth, then the whole agribusiness system won't work. But in a few years, it's not going to work anyway. When weather becomes completely unpredictable, these monoculture farms are not going to survive.
Yeah.
So if a little bit of forward thinking, there are lots of my personal efforts, apart from trying to get Americans to say it is worthwhile cooperating with China, however much we hate them. It is to emphasize the importance of producing food near where you live.
Yes.
I think
we're big proponents of community gardens. It's something that we donate to and support, and we have sponsored a couple of community gardens. And we also, I want to remind everybody, if you didn't know, because what you're talking about, we have had an author on. Her name is Kirsten Olson, and her book is called The Soil Will Save Us. And this particular book is actually about what you're saying, how we can actually do agriculture in a way that absorbs the carbon into the soil. Like, this is something we actually know how to do and we're capable of doing. And it's very, and you know, we talk about this all the time. These are policy decisions that are made based on profits. And it's a choice. It's a choice. We're completely capable of doing this and doing agriculture in a much more sustainable way, and in a way that doesn't, like, you know, eliminate bees and things like that.
Bee colonies, composting. There are you know, permaculture. There's layers of things, and the young kids, they're really into it.
We know plenty, but as long as we cannot interfere with the profits of agribusiness, we cannot act. The Biden is regarded in the United States as way over there on the left, but he's on the right. We don't. I mean, the number we do have half a dozen people in Congress that really are progressive and ready to make changes, but it's just beginning.
Yeah. My hope is that we do have enough time, that by the time we can get enough of those people in positions of power that want to work together and do this, it's like we're seeing people slowly trickle in, progressive, non-corporate people that are not representing big agra. But it needs to be more. And what concerns me is how long it takes to get even one of those people in there. You know, like every cycle you can get one or two people in, and it you know, I think we're running out of time. Well, in Florida, we're definitely running out of time.
Yes.
The Florida is mostly going to be in the part of the ocean.
Oh yeah.
Because it won't take a lot of, I mean, once the Greenland glacier is melted, even if the Antarctic glacier is not melted, it'll raise the water level such that most of the cities of Florida won't be. Anyway, but
yeah, I'll be in the mountains by then, people. That's part of my evacuation plan. I'm going to higher ground.
Well, even you said that, you know, one of the biggest mistakes we made here in Florida is that any land that is south of Lake Okeechobee was never meant to be. It was never meant to be habitable.
Not by white people.
Not by humans.
No, it is matter, because the indigenous people did live there, and they lived on the ridge, and they lived in the mangroves, and those were the Seminoles, and those were the tribes down here, and they were functioning and cohabitating with the ecosystem the way it was. When the white people came in and dredged it and built canals and made it so that they could have profit from shipping produce from one coast to the other, that is when we completely interfered in the ecological system. So yes, it is the white people that screwed it up, because the people that were living here did live in the higher ground areas, and they did just fine. And
amazingly enough, about half the population of Florida lives in or around or south of Lake Okeechobee, in Palm Beach, Broward, Dade, Miami-Dade County, and then you have the west coast of Florida, where you have Fort Myers, Sarasota, and Naples. So again, we've made a lot of mistakes here in Florida, and we've been asking for it for a long time. Unfortunately, our elected representatives have only exacerbated the problem even worse. Our congressional representative is one of the absolute worst. So ironically enough, just made a phenomenal profit investing as a result of the war that is going on in Ukraine, a massive profit in oil and fracking drilling. So to say that we unfortunately do have people who are expediting the process would be an understatement.
No, I was talking about the fact that the economic problem is even more fundamental. Even if people are behaving in completely honest and corrupt ways, and there's no corruption and there's no distortion, it's still destructive. But the reality is, of course, that people who could foresee a huge profit in pharmaceuticals may not be so interested in preventing COVID from spreading. And people who can make a huge profit in armaments kind of pleased that Putin has invaded. And the US government was going to put huge sums of money, of course, because we spend more money on our military than the next 10 countries put together, I think, something like that.
Yes, no, it's true.
I shouldn't use statistics because I'm usually not quite right.
No, you are actually right. And not only that, but then you have our Congress that actually then gave the president even more money, the ridiculous war budget that he was asking for. They actually gave him more. That's right. It's stuff like that that I find infuriating. And, you know, of course, we talk about this all the time. I mean, the profiteers.
Yeah. And I certainly hope, I mean, I have hope for your generation, but it has not rebelled against the system to the extent that I would have.
We're working on it.
I would agree.
We're working on it.
I assure you, I wasn't criticizing you.
No, and it's funny because you look at me like my generation, and I'm looking like at some of the people that the students and the people that I work with. It's like, no, it's their generation, but like really, it's just my mom's been telling me for years she's just waiting for the revolution, and I think we are getting closer and closer. I think we are. I knew that Trump would help facilitate the revolution. I think he did help facilitate the revolution in a lot of ways. And I'm not talking about the January 6th insurrection. I just mean waking people up so that people realize what's going on. I think more people are enraged. I think it would have been nice for them to be angry with me a long time ago, but, you know, welcome to the party. And it's just a matter of spreading it and having more and more people realize what's going on.
Yeah, there were a lot of people who were in complete denial about how Trump won, why he won, and the circumstances. But I think there are enough people who are kind of starting to question it now. And as we've said, you know, the wake-up call was not Trump. The wake-up call is Biden, because you're seeing history repeat itself. It's almost like happening in slow motion, and you're trying to tell people, you know, stop the car, you're going to crash. And people are slowly but surely either thinking about stopping or they're at least thinking about getting out. And if they are at least willing to get out, then we may be moving in that right direction. And nobody creates a bigger carbon footprint on this planet than the military-industrial complex. And people are sick of war. Like they're just sick of war because they're sick of it, and they know that the corporate press in this country, which are funded by the military-industrial complex, are pushing for war with Russia. They know it's game over if that happens, and most people are saying, we don't want this. And the next logical step is, okay, well, if you don't want that and you want us to have sustainable life on this planet, what is it going to take to make it happen? And as you said, we have to find a way to reach common ground with China.
Yes.
And if we can do that, then we can save the planet. There's no question that that's what it's going to take.
But you see, China is vulnerable to almost exactly the same tactics that have been used against Russia. Because China, and I wish it would not do this, but it insists that Taiwan is part of China, and reacts very strongly to any official statement otherwise. Well, it would be very easy. I mean, just as Putin said repeatedly, we cannot allow enemy military right in the heart of our own country. And if you insist on doing that, we will not allow it. He told us that again and again and again, and we pushed ahead without any consideration. Well, we can persuade Taiwan to become active in requesting military support from the US, and Taiwan might offer the US at the U.S. is, the U.S. would have to be participant in all this, a military base in Taiwan. Well, China would attack.
Yes, they will.
And if we, in other words, then we will say China attacked Taiwan unprovoked. I mean, it's very interesting to me that Putin was unprovoked in spite of 10 years of provocation.
Right.
So if the U.S. considers that it has succeeded with Russia, it may try exactly the same technique, and that will, of course, be good for the armament industry, but bad for everybody else.
Yeah. And you have to wonder at what point will cooler heads prevail. And, we were at this moment 60 years ago, and I thought that, what Kennedy was able to do to get us out of the Cuban Missile Crisis is what defined his legacy in many ways. It's also what got him killed. But at the same time, I do wonder about our current president and his ability to lead us through any type of a major crisis. And, that's one of the dangers that we've seen coming full circle. I don't know how Bernie would have handled this situation if he had become president, but I'd like to think he would have been a lot more forceful in trying to get everyone to the negotiating table and end this thing faster, rather than saying, oh, no, let's just give Ukraine more weapons. That'll solve the problem. No, actually, it's going to make it worse.
Of course. I mean, the more we rhetorically encourage Ukraine to resist, and the more support we give it, the more Ukrainians die. And the net result will not be different unless we do more than that. So I don't think that the people who are rah-rah Ukraine are really Ukraine's friends. I think they are. I don't think that the American policy is really interested in the people of Ukraine. I think it's interested in forcing Russia to its knees.
Yeah, and that's not that's not going to happen. And one of the last things I would want to mention is, the people who are so loud about war and are so ready, willing, and able to send people over there to fight and die, they're always the last people. And this has probably been true for as long as you've been alive. The people who are the loudest in the room pushing for war are always the last people in the room who would ever fight in that war. Why do you think that is?
Cowards. Because they're cowards.
Well, I of course, my war was World War II. I was in World War II I didn't do any fighting, but I was in the army for 3.5 years. And I think that what you're saying is not as true of World War II.
But now.
Oh, no, I think it's often true. I don't want you to give up that idea. But it was pretty much multi-generational. Once Roosevelt persuaded the Japanese to attack the fleet in Pearl Harbor, the American people were united against Japan, and he could just tack Germany on. That was what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that was almost, I was, I grew up in Japan. Lots of Japanese friends. Japanese have been wonderful hosts and all of that. So I was pro-Japanese in a personal sense, but I was anti-Japanese imperialism, just like I'm anti-American imperialism. And so I joined the army as soon as I was 18. And lots of people were volunteering. I just mean, it is different on different occasions.
Yeah.
But right now, I don't think that the American public wants to get into a war that could go nuclear.
And they think that Putin is not, they are really, I've been saying for a while, this country, especially the privileged liberal class, has been poking Putin for like 5 years.
Easy.
And this
longer than that.
Yeah,
maybe not Putin, but I mean Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this whole saying that Putin controlled our previous president, and
they interfere in our elections.
It's like, and we're ones to talk.
Yeah,
let
really.
me tell you. I got to the point where I'm thinking, what do you think this dictator, because that's what he is going to do when he has the opportunity to literally kick us right between the eyes? You think he's going to miss? No, he's not. He waited for his moment. He's got it. And he is taking full advantage of the circumstance. Now, hats off to Zelensky and the Ukrainians who are fighting back. They have done obviously the amount of gallantry in their efforts is, you can't say it can't be understated. I mean, Zelensky could have left the country. He didn't. He's probably under armored protection all the time, but yet he's still there inspiring his people. I don't know what the end game is, but what I do know is that however this is going to end, if it doesn't need to end with us continuing to pillage the hell out of the planet, which we're doing, or infinitely more bloodshed than what we've already seen, we need a diplomatic solution that allows both countries to save face. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and right now, I mean, the paper today talked about the group that is negotiating is making progress.
Good.
Unfortunately, the United States will not participate in those negotiations.
Well, we're not interested in progress. So
for us, progress is the weakening of Russia.
Yeah.
And there isn't anybody.
The longer the war goes on, the more people Russia kills in Ukraine, the worse off Russia is. So I think our policy is to protract the war.
You know what? That is, if there's anyone who doubts the control that the military-industrial complex not only has on our country, but on the world, and their ability to create a narrative in order to perpetuate this problem even further, this is it right now. Because I don't understand how anyone thinks that this is a safe place where we stand at this moment. If people think that a nuclear bomb could not be dropped, look, you saw it, you lived through it, and there are reports that Truman, you can make the argument that the bomb needed to be dropped on Hiroshima.
No.
But
no.
But especially the fact that the bomb absolutely did not need to be dropped on Nagasaki, and they did it anyway.
Still no.
And but what I'm saying is that can you let me?
I can, but I still we had Oliver Stone on. We've talked about this.
Yes, and I'm not saying that that there's the justification, but
okay.
There's a huge difference between dropping a nuke to destroy your military machine, and there's another thing, dropping a nuke on a civilian city and literally committing mass genocide.
Both cities were cities.
But there's a huge difference between the two cities, is what I'm saying.
All right.
And my point is, and especially because Nagasaki was the second bomb, it was completely unnecessary. That is a war crime that President Truman and many others never paid the price for. We have never paid the price for a lot of our war crimes that we have committed. We have war criminals right now walking around saying we should go to war in Russia. And the idea, Dr. Cobb, that especially the liberal class, and you know who I'm talking about. I'm not talking about all liberals. I'm talking about the ones that are involved in geopolitics. And the fact that they are taking talking points from John Bolton, of all people, one of the most bloodthirsty warmongers. I mean, listen, he probably makes Kissinger blush, for God's sake. The idea that we have people like that are in polite society giving cues about what we should and shouldn't be doing in terms of our foreign policy is extremely disturbing. And I can't even imagine what that perspective is like from your end, because we are in a very precarious place right now. And I don't think people really realize it. I think people are really sheltered from just how bad things can get at the drop of a hat in Ukraine right now.
I think that it's still possible that there will be something really bad. But that would be so bad without actually, wiping out a huge segment of humanity.
Yeah.
That people will say, "Oh, we gotta quit. We gotta change." That's the only real hope I have. And it's not a nice hope. And I don't have something specified. Now, it may be it may be caused by climate. It may be caused by war. But my own assessment is that the Democratic Party was very closely tied to labor unions. And as labor unions grew weak, Clinton saw there was no future for the Democratic Party as a labor union party. So he organized very specifically, what did he call it? The New Democrats or something.
Mm-hmm.
And said
the third way
to be friendly to business. Well, the business it was friendly to and has been friendly to ever since, not international businesses, but transnational businesses. And the transnational corporations set the policies for the Democratic Party. And the transnational, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I like to remind people all the time that the worst president in terms of policy in my lifetime is Bill Clinton. NAFTA, normal trade relations with China, the crime bill,
Telecommunications Act
of 96, and of course the repeal of Glass-Steagall in 99. I mean, those 5 policies right there completely changed the course of history. They really have, and it's all connected.
Totally transformed half of the Democratic Party. I mean, there is a wing of the Democratic Party that really hasn't supported all of that, though it's a very confused wing. But anyway, Trump has the support of national business.
Yes.
Because national business doesn't like having, being just put into the middle of an international, transnational. But those are the two great powers in this country. And the well-being of human beings is not important for either one.
No.
Well, I think as long as we continue to have these very important and very enlightening conversations, more and more people will realize that we do have to take the actions as necessary in order to get where we need to go. Because right now we're off the track, but if we can get back on it, maybe something like the Living Earth movement would be a way to do it. Dr. Cobb, we are extremely appreciative that you came on this evening. Is there a website that people can go to where they can follow your work, especially with Living Earth movement?
Yes, Living Earth movement.eco.
Living Earth movement.eco.
That's right. I mean, the rest of it is just writing the name of the organization. So, but you wouldn't think of putting ECO after it unless you.
It's true. Guys, check out the Living Earth movement and, make sure that you're following these kinds of organizations that are really trying to make a big difference and point things out that nobody else is pointing out. Like, maybe we shouldn't hate on China all the time, since maybe we need to work with them. You know, crazy ideas like that.
Crazy ideas like it's better to cooperate with China than to destroy ourselves.
Yes, I know. Exactly. Very radical, left-wing, crazy nonsense that you're speaking.
And let me assure each and every one of you, if you think conflict with Russia looks bad, conflict with China is the end of the world. So
I think that's true. I mean, if Russia did get on its knees and allow itself to become just one more a part of the U.S. empire, in some way, that would still be, that would not be an end to life. But China won't do that.
No, they won't. And they've got the population to do it. So with that said, Dr. Cobb, we can't thank you.
It has lost all of its recent wars. If the U.S. cannot win a war against Vietnam, imagine fighting a war against China.
No, there is. That's not something that it would just be an annihilation. Like it would just be, we would just all be dead. Like that's not a thing. Like I'm already against the next war, people. So I'm like, it's never going to be something I'm going to support.
Well, one of the things that we always like to point out when people talk about World War II in particular is that, yes, we did raise the flag on Iwo Jima, but it was the Russians who raised the flag on Berlin. And people who want to write history in whatever construct that they think of, okay, fine. But, there's always going to be those who keep actual history. And we know that while we have done a lot of great things in this country, we've also done a lot of bad things. And you can't have one without the other. And you pointing out the very important points, especially as it relates to the environment, cannot be understated. We're fighting for you and what you're fighting for. And we were obviously very grateful you came on this evening. And we hope you're in good health and keep fighting the good fight. And we'll be doing the same over here.
I'm glad you're doing the good fight.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Cobb.
We appreciate you, sir. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
He was lovely.
Talk about a wealth of knowledge.
Well, that's the thing. It's like there is something to be said for life experience and just what you see and what you learn. And I'm telling you, for someone like him, this whole thing, it's got to be like Groundhog Day. Yeah. It's got to be like Groundhog Day.
He's like, oh, I've seen this before.
Oh, we've seen this play. And it's just, it's out of control, people. We're out of control. I don't hate the Russians. I don't hate the Chinese. I don't hate the Syrians, the Iranians, the Venezuelans.
I just want Chinese food. If you haven't had Chinese food.
And their Chinese food is different from our Chinese food.
Yes,
but that's neither here nor there. My point is that all I think of is that there are mothers in these countries protecting their babies as rich people are all fighting like Stratego. That's what it is to me. And I don't care whether my oligarchs speak Russian, Chinese, or English. It doesn't matter to me one bit or the other. I'm not scared of the Russians. I'm not scared of Putin.
They're under your bed.
I'm not scared. People.
But Barr.
Their economy is the size of Spain.
We can't show
What are you worried about? Do you think they're going to be like pulling up on the shores? Has it ever occurred to anybody that if we just left them alone and stopped violating every agreement we had since World War II, we wouldn't be in any of this?
But Barr, we can't show any weakness in front of the Russians.
I can't, people. I just can't with you. And I feel the same way about the Chinese. And I feel the same way about, and if you guys want to concern yourselves with the genocide, please turn your attention to Yemen and us and Saudi Arabia, because that is an actual genocide that the past, two presidential administrations have participated in knowingly. And that includes Obama. And so again, let's subdue the war criminal talk about Putin and let's start looking in our own house. I got to tell you, people, if we went in chronological order, we would have to start with Kissinger. I don't think anybody older than him is up.
Well, I don't know how much more time. Listen.
Just saying, if you want me to
answer. Absolutely agree. Because we
oh my God,
care more about the animals.
I kind of do. I kind of do.
Yeah.
But anyway, what do we have coming up?
We have a lot coming up.
I know. We're very busy, people. Very busy.
Yeah, we may be going on a big show tomorrow, so we'll keep you posted.
Oh, we might be going on a big show tomorrow.
Just waiting on the final details. Lord knows.
This could be very exciting.
Yeah.
I have a dentist tomorrow. That's not so exciting.
Well, everybody needs good teeth.
Yeah, well. Okay, so I see on Monday.
Healthcare that would cover that.
If only dental was included in healthcare.
Yeah, it should be.
So on Monday, I see we have a candidate interview, but I don't see that we have another interview. So I don't know what you're working on. Well, we will be
setting up potentially one with a big name guest, or we'll be doing potentially a military panel, which is something we're looking to do.
Ooh, military panel.
Something to, get from a real, the perspective that we really need from individuals that know what actual warfare is like and, what we can expect.
We're going to have a military panel, people. Which is interesting for me. I mean, I'm a pacifist kind of, so it's interesting to me to have a military panel. But I do love me some Danny Scherzen.
Speaking of the environment, on Wednesday we will be speaking with Melissa.
The goat lady is coming. Okay, so Melissa lives in Ireland, and she is a goat farmer. This is really cool. I found this. I don't even remember when I found this article, and I forwarded it to you a long time ago. But something that they're doing to combat wildfires is they're actually using goats. Goats grazing on the land is something that is being done to eat away the dead, the dry grass, and it feeds the goats, helps with the ecosystem, and it's also preventing fires. And so I just thought, we have so many wildfires in this country. This is constantly going to be an issue with climate crisis. Californians are regularly now being evacuated because of wildfires. And so I just kind of wanted to talk to the goat lady. I know that's not her name. Her name's Melissa. She's not the goat lady. But, and this idea of sort of creating some sort of self-sustaining system that helps prevent fires without having to evacuate people. Maybe having goats. I don't know. And again, I'm not saying that goats is going to solve our wildfire.
No, that's true. It won't. But what I will say, lost my train of thought for a second. We obviously have a serious environmental issue that we are trying to work on. And again, I think this conversation obviously was very productive. We certainly hope everybody enjoyed it. Like I said, we may be going on a huge platform tomorrow. We will keep you posted on that. And yeah, we just got to keep building these.
And we have a few good candidates set up. And then we also we're going to be doing an education talk.
We got to start planning the 420 event.
Yeah. And we are going to be doing a big 420. And did you reach out to any of the original Waldos? Remember I sent you the information for the original Waldos? I want to get one of the original Waldos. Hey guys, if any of you know any of the original San Rafael Waldos.
I'd like to get Ben and Jerry maybe.
No. I want to talk to one of the original Waldos. I know for a fact that I think all of them are still alive. Like they're not that old. This is from the 70s. So anyway, we're going to do our stone history, and there will be a nice 420 event that we will be putting together. And I would love to get one of the original Waldos.
Maybe we'll do it at 420.
Well, and the thing, okay, so for people who don't know, the Waldos were the original group in California, the high school students in San Rafael. That started the term 420. They would meet at 420. That was after school got out. They would meet there and they would smoke. One of the Waldos was like a roadie for, I think, Phil Lesh. Like there's definitely a Grateful Dead connection in terms of like there is a connection to the Grateful Dead. But I'd love to get one of the original Waldos on to talk about that. And if they ever had any idea that 420 would be the what it is turned into, and most people have no idea really what it is.
I can see that.
Yeah. People think it's, for a long time, people were thinking it was like a penal code statute, like that it stood for something having to do with like cannabis. It really doesn't. It's a time of day. Yeah, that's that. So we will be planning a big 420, and that's about it, guys. Do we have anything else? Rishi, that's the candidate that's coming on Monday.
Correct. And so if you like our content, you enjoyed the show this evening.
Guys, consider.
Keep helping out if you can.
Consider being a patron.
Generational Change. $5 a month is the minimum. It would really help. Every little bit counts, but you could be a $10 or $25 a month Patreon. We really appreciate it.
And guys, remember, all the Generational Change money goes to GenCore, which is our nonprofit. And we use that money to do like local service and support nonprofit or non-corporate candidates. So it's sort of like a mutual fund, if you will, for people that are trying to see a non-corporate world transforming politics into service.
Yeah. In fact, that's our mission
transforming politics into service. Yeah. So
thank you, Matt. Thank you all. Appreciate you.
And I appreciate that, Matt. He said that we should call ourselves journalists. We could call ourselves journalists. And I appreciate that. I went to school for it, but I won't claim it. Okay. So we both did. So I won't claim it though, but we don't actually do like reporting. We're information sharers.
I guess that qualifies.
Is that a
Julian Assange is a journalist and he's an information sharer. So I guess if he is, and we are. One last thing I wanted to say about the military. I saw somebody say there are some military veterans on the left. Listen, guys, we had a very noted military veteran who was on the show recently, Colonel Manis from Louisiana, and he is 100% on the right.
I debate that.
But here's my point. Okay. He votes on the right.
He does vote on the right.
But he's against war, as are a lot of people on the right.
Especially people who have served.
Yeah.
But no, and the truth is we do have a lot of lefties that have come on, veteran lefties. We had Oliver Stone on Veterans Day. Danny Scherzen, friend of the show. He is extremely...
That's good, Turkey.
GenCore. It's GenCore.
Yeah.
And he would call it corpse. like
With an
Marine
S.
Corps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, we definitely, there are lefties that are veterans, for sure there are. And we try to have truthfully, we'll talk to anybody if they want to have like civil discourse.
Yeah. And
Quite
I think
honestly.
it's important not to worry about exactly where people are falling on the political lines.
No, I really want to
When it
get
comes to
Jesse
war.
Ventura. That's who I want.
Yeah, guys, help us get Jesse Ventura.
We want Jesse
That would
so
be
badly.
great.
Well, and I'd love Jesse, and then I would love anybody. See, Willie Nelson, 420.
John, we definitely have to watch that documentary that Oliver Stone made for sure. All right, guys, thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Bye, y'all.